my father was in the military for a long time, but then opened literally a bar in Detroit, a saloon. And he did that for many years. So he was kind of a small businessman. My grandfather, my mother's father, had a car wash or two. So, I kind of, I grew up in that kind of a little bit of a small business environment and always had kind of, we call it the golden gut, but not in the sense that a real entrepreneur isn't really chasing money. He or she likes to build. It's an interesting story. When I was in sixth grade, I actually had I started a pizzeria out of my mother's kitchen. And I actually we were 12 years old or something. I had my friends involved, and we'd have our 9-year-old brothers deliver on bikes our pizzas we would make. And we passed out flyers in the neighborhood. Then the health department called up, and that came over actually after a week, because I think some of the real pizzerias in town found out about the close. It was our first kind of exposure to regulation and stuff. So we always were doing those kinds of things. I used to sell yo-yos on the playground floor. I used to win the candy sales in because I go to my father's bar where all the people who had a drink or two would buy all the candy. So, you kind of figure these things out. We're discussing with Kauffman today about this concept we started in Detroit a couple of years ago called BizdomU, which is a entrepreneurial academy, and trying to give people, and I was going to say kids, but it's really not just kids. So people between, on average 18 to 40, and certainly would even do it older. But allows people who wouldn't get that at bat of becoming an entrepreneur, who may have grew up maybe in an area that's just something that doesn't happen, and creating an academy that they run through for 2 years or a year to 2 years, depending on the situation. And it's really intense and really kind of rigorous. And what we do is we get them to hopefully be able to compete to open up a business right when they get out, and hopefully run circles around in Harvard MBA from a street level, sign the lease, hire the people, get the regulation, get through the regulation, whatever they've got to do. And it's evolving now, and Kauffman's interest, I think, is to how do you take this brand of BizdomU and obviously the very big brand of Kauffman, put it together, maybe open it up in different cities in America. You give these people not only a hope to be an entrepreneur, but if they get through and they have the business that is evolved to the point of being funded, we fund the business as long as they start it and are headquartered in that city. So Detroit, in our case, the first case. And then they own a piece of the business, and the fund owns a piece of the business, the foundation. And obviously, as the businesses grow, the fund gets bigger, makes the school bigger, and the concept that wealth and jobs get created in the inner city, all through an entrepreneurial effort versus maybe some of these failed government programs that have been probably well-intended but not well-achieved. The age-old argument of nurture or nature, I think it's both. I think there has to be some nature for sure, but I do think there's more of it. In other words, if you have the propensity, sometimes people use these things as a negative. In other words, if you had the genetic propensity to smoke or to drink, you'll do it if it's put in front of you. I think also on the positive side that's true too. So if you have the propensity to like to build things or create, then you theoretically, if you get exposed enough and see enough mentors, enough people, enough examples, then that entrepreneurialism. And by the way, I'm not sure if it's entrepreneurialism or not entrepreneurialism, so we're gonna have to figure that out one day. Maybe it's both. I don't know. So. That it can be brought out. Entrepreneurism is really just creating. I mean, there's no better word to define it than creating, right? So creating. So if you're a basketball player, some basketball players have the ability to create their own shot, right? And others are stand and set shooters, right? You got to get the ball to them. They have a good shot, but you have to get the ball to them, right? And some can create off the dribble and create their own shot. So in the business sense, I think there's a very good analogy there. So somebody who's highly talented, qualified, smart, but they go into an existing company and then they can do well as more of a, you get them the ball and they can do well. The entrepreneur in that equivalence is a person who can create their own shot and likes to create their own shot and can create off the dribble and can see the court ahead. So to me, it's the ability to create. So whether you're within a company or within an institution or not or wherever in your own backyard, if you like to create, it is some science, but it's more art than people want to give probably credit to, or I don't want to say credit, but it'll give maybe recognition to. It's more of an art than a science. When things look, the word darkest before the dawn concept, right? So, I tend to like to be the contrarian in these things, like Cleveland and Detroit, where we're real involved with. I mean, the opportunity to me is immense because, first of all, there's no one else necessarily looking, not a lot anyway, of people who are looking at all. Yeah, it's just, oh, that's at the bottom, but you want to buy at the bottom and sell at the top, right? More and more and more people have to create, because the more people that can create, the more opportunity there's going to be. And we have to almost get on a frenzy in this country of that it's like that's the thing that this country does allow people the opportunity to create, which it doesn't exist in most countries. So whether they're going to create new, cool, exciting cars that are going to be companies in some maybe different kind of format that they're in now or structure, or it's going to be other businesses that spring from the people who used to work there. But there's no other way to come back unless people create, right? So that's going to take a cooperation between the local governments, maybe the federal, but probably not too much there, unfortunately, because I don't think you can manage something from Washington. Maybe there was a time in this country, from 1900, let's even say, or late 1880s till maybe 1975 or whatever, that you actually needed that. Because manufacturing society, you kind of needed the vast majority of people to kind of be homogenous and kind of fall in line and create. You had the space race, and you had you had to pump out all these engineers in school, and you had to have the military, and you had to have the manufacturing. Somewhere in the last 20 years, 25 years or something, maybe 30 years, it really flipped, meaning it became a brain economy instead of a muscle economy. And the exact opposite type of skills and the exact opposite kind of incentives that were in place in the military-industrial complex exist now. They're still existing, but exist in an entrepreneurial, individualized thinking, brain, innovation, creativity world that we need to compete in. And we haven't changed the system yet, the schools. I mean, right now, to even think of getting school teachers to be incented on performance or paid by performance. I mean, these kinds of things that are just natural to any kind of entrepreneur or person who wants to get paid by their, how they do, is so foreign. When I graduated high school in the early 80s, I could tell you, I didn't know what a stock was. I didn't know what a bond was. Didn't know what the stock market was. I've heard of it. I couldn't tell you what a mortgage was. I couldn't tell you what an insurance policy was, what a checking book, savings account. I mean, nothing. And it wasn't taught. So the question becomes, even looking at the curriculum, metamorphic, igneous, and what is it, sedimentary? I could tell you those three. To this day, I could tell you those three rocks. But when I graduated high school, I couldn't tell you what a stock or bond was. So I mean, we've got to look at the curriculum and see what we're teaching people from day one. Money doesn't lead; it follows. Which really means that people who want to create and build, those are your entrepreneurs, and money will follow them. Ironically, they tend to become more wealthy than people who chase money because it just doesn't work that way. People focus so much on the money part, but money is money's not the root of all evil. It's a lack of money that's root. It's a lack of wealth and the lack of creativity and that kind of stuff that's the problem. The more you give, the more you get in this world. I mean, a lot of people don't understand the more you give, the more you get in it, as long as you don't expect it the next day. So that's to me, and I also think it's just the entrepreneurs have been so busy building things in their own. There's not like a public relations or necessarily a media, maybe you guys now, but there's not like a media that specializes in showing, what the good parts of building things. I mean, how could it be wrong? You can't at the same time complain that we don't have enough jobs and everything and then be anti-business. But there seems to be a lot of people that try to say that. I think people like Mr. Kauffman and others realize the more you give, the more you do get, because you're creating your own shot, your own opportunity. So whether it's in Cleveland or Detroit, yeah, you may have a big heart and you want to see great things and impact positively as many people as you can. But inevitably, the world and the universe is built that it comes back to you in more ways than one. So that's the good news. Now, convincing the greedy man about that, you'll never do it because, they're built differently. So that's just the way it is. There's a term I heard or a quote I heard a long time ago I really liked. It said, "Give what the greedy man won't, and you'll get what the greedy man wants." So, you got to think of it that way, I guess.